Today on JTV, we're going underwater and submerging flowers for creative, wonderful vases that will mystify your friends and family. So let's get ready to go underwater with our flowers. You know, submerged flowers are all the rage, and it allows us to use an old tool that was available for flower design, the flower frog. That and decorative stones helps weight our flowers in the bottom of the vases themselves. We've got several different vases to do today, so we'll show you different types of flowers and the way that we do it. The basics are all the same, but you can get very interesting results using different types of flowers and foliages. We'll start with this cylinder vase. We'll choose a flower frog that's appropriate. Use one of these round shapes because that'll look great at the bottom. And we can select a flower. Now we could use a rose like this, or we could use an orchid. Maybe we could even use a combination of the two. So let's try that. First thing we'll do is cut the stem of our orchid short. And I'm cutting it off flush so that it's even on the end. The reason that I'm doing that is because when I stick it into the flower frog, if I cut it too sharp, it'll go in between the needles and not pierce itself. So I want to make sure that it's good and secure. I should be able to pick up the flower from the flower frog. That's going to make it easy for me to put it down inside the vase. Our rose is going to go in front, so we'll cut that stem even shorter and place that onto our flower frog. So it's almost like a little arrangement, and that goes inside our vase. Now we can add decorative stones around the bottom to cover up the mechanics of the flower frog, or we can let that be exposed. Because it's so interesting, I sometimes like to have that down there because it's almost mystifying to see that down inside. The next thing is to fill it up with water. I like to use something like this that puts the water flow off to the side and is gentle. But at the same time, you can use a bucket too if you're using large quantities. You'll notice with all of my vases, I have water already in the base of them. What that does is it allows the flower frog to sink down into the water and gently rest against the bottom. And I'm not clunking it down in there, glass against metal. And then I simply fill it up. The other thing too is as the water goes down into a vase like this, it might splash around and dislodge the flowers. What you're going to notice about this is that those roses and orchids look bigger now. The water magnifies them all. And there's also little bits of air that are attached to the inside of that rose itself. Doesn't that look incredible? That's what's going to cause people to notice. The other thing about this is the flowers that go underwater are not going to last as long as other flowers because we've submerged them and the bacteria can set into them almost immediately. But we've got a solution for that from Chrysal. The new CBVN tablets, a time-released bleach that helps reduce bacteria. So we can simply drop that down inside. You'll notice that that little guy is fizzing, and it's releasing that into the water. That'll help reduce the amount of bacteria in the water itself. So let's take a look at something else. In this case, we're going to use this beautiful orchid. It's a Vanda from Amy's Orchids. And we'll decide where we want that orchid to fall inside the vase. I'm going to want the stem shorter than it is right now because I want that to be submerged completely inside this interior area. So we cut it off flush, again making sure that we've got a nice flat end. And then we take that and put it right into our flower frog. That's enough weight to allow this to sink to the bottom. I'm going to add some rocks first. A key point in using rocks and stones is to make sure that you wash them off first, because the dirt will rise to the top and discolor your water. So I always rinse everybody off first. Those stones look good. They'll shield that. And I can drop a few more in around the flower itself. The stones and the vase itself are from Accent Decor. Because I've got a large volume of water, I'll use a bucket. Again, that's magnified this. And look at those air bubbles that are sitting on the front of the vandas. Those will dissipate over time, but they sometimes too can increase because the flowers have air inside them, and that will sometimes come to the surface. So sometimes a couple hours after you do this is the most beautiful time for those flowers. Now let's kick this one up just a little bit more by using acolytes. These are the submersible floralites, and we can drop those down inside. The great part about this is that if we were using it at night, it would make the entire interior of this glow and highlight that flower wonderfully. When you're using very large vases, be conscious about the amount of water and the weight. If you're using a big cylinder like this, you're not going to be able to move that after you've filled it with water. Also, moving them after an event is a special trick. You can go in with a turkey baster and extract some of the water so that you can get it low enough to dip out larger quantities. Pour those into buckets and then move them out of the way. It's never a good idea to move big containers of glass when they're full of water. So let's create a little arrangement inside this one. This is the pyramid vase from Syndicate, and these vases are ideal for tabletop creations using submersed flowers. We'll use the square flower frog. With this one, we're going to put in our foxtail fern. I like making the arrangement next to the container so I can see exactly how long they have to be. That one I had to trim 3 times to get it to be the right length. That's the great part about this, is you can experiment and have fun creating these. The flower frogs were called kenzans for Japanese flower design, which means pack of needles. And it was used to arrange flowers in traditional ikebana flower design. It works great for this type of project. Dropping that down inside, and then we can add our water. Adding water slowly is the key. Have you ever found if you rush something, it never turns out right? So it's always better to take your time. If I had a multitude of these to do for a special event, I might deliver them all with this water level and then When I get them in place, just go ahead and top them off. Now we can even use a vase like this. This is one of the trio vases from Syndicate Sales. And one flower will be perfect inside there. Or a small pyramid vase and a few orange stones. These orange stones were washed in a colander. So I put the amount that I wanted in there and then rinsed them off to make sure all the debris was gone. I'll use my knife to create a hole in the center. It looks like we need a few more stones. A stem works well too. You can just push those to the outside. And fill that up. Think of how fun it might be to have one of those at each place setting for a wonderful little dinner party. It's a fun way to use a single flower and an inexpensive way to showcase it and make it mystifying for everyone that evening. Remember that one beautiful rose from your garden makes an incredible centerpiece. Now, sometimes the fun can happen outside the vase as well. We'll use this beautiful spray aster. And add a submersible acolyte. We'll want to turn this up so that it's shining upwards. Add our water. And then use 2 pieces of umbrella foliage, guiding those down and placing those inside the kenzan. Now that's a fun centerpiece and something people will be talking about for years to come. Until next week, keep having fun with flowers.